Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time watching, my name's Matt Cubic. I mess with a lot of these old Ford trucks and go pick them up and get them going and poke around with them and show you guys and bring you guys along for the ride. Today we're sitting in my 1969 Harbor Blue F-250 that's been sitting since 2001. It had a stuck motor when I got it, and today we get it running, so you're not going to miss this. Well, first off, this is our 69 F-250 that I picked up in Denver a few weeks back. It's been sitting here. It's been sitting for 20 years, I think. It's got a Ford FE 360 in it. The engine is a little bit stuck right now. So first off, I wanted to pull those spark plugs out and look at the cylinder bores and see if we can get some ATF or something down in there to help loosen that up. It's been sitting for 20 years, I think, at least. Or at the most. 2001 is this air quality sticker from Colorado. The tag on the back is 01, and the battery that was in it when I picked it up had a date code of August of '99, so the battery had been in there since 1999. But first off, I'm going to get these spark plugs out of here, and I might even get my bore scope and look in there and see what they look like. The engine, I got it to move just a little bit when I tried it, but I don't want to get it try too hard without getting some lubrication in those cylinders to give it a good chance of getting freed up. So let's get after that. Well, I got all the spark plugs out, and they're not bad. This one's a little bit rusty. Some of them, that one was broke. So they're not terrible. They're not, let's see, that one's got a little bit of rust on it. I took my bore scope and looked in there. I'll show some pictures here. Didn't look that bad. It's better than I was expecting. It's still, there was some rust in these over here. This side looked pretty good, but this side showed some rust. So I'm gonna pour some ATF down in them, let it soak overnight, and we'll see if we can break it free. And if we can, we'll see if we can start it. The carburetor is froze up. So the linkages froze up and the choke is froze up, but maybe we'll get it to run otherwise. And if it runs like that with the carburetor froze up, pouring the extra gas in there or something, if it won't run because the choke is froze up, then I'll take the carburetor off and see if I can get it unfroze, and we'll go from there. Well guys, I screwed up. I was diagnosing the electrical problems I've been having. And the key didn't have any power to any of the accessories. The ignition wasn't powering on. The starter relay wasn't clicking. Blower motor wasn't working. Radio wasn't working. None of that stuff was working. And I was tracing the problem and going the wires back to the cab and testing the power supply. I didn't have any power at the fuse block for any of those things. And traced it all back to the ignition switch. And I was messing with that, and I started to get stuff to work, and was messing with it more, trying to get the relay to quick for the starter, and the engine started turning over. So I was planning on getting all that on camera when I got the engine unstuck, and the transmission fluid made a mess out here, obviously. But I guess it wasn't stuck that bad, or the transmission fluid really did work pretty fast, because I was going to try to get it unstuck in the morning, but got it unstuck. So I'll run it here with my my test switch so you guys can see it. I'll get that thing hooked on there. There we go. I'll spin it over for you guys so you can see it spinning. Still spitting some transmission fluid out of there, but got it spinning over pretty good. Pretty good speed too. I was worried that starter wasn't going to be any good because it's buried under that header. But starter seems to be good, so I need to get some plugs back in this thing and put some gas down the carb and see if she'll fire off. Well guys, it's the next morning here working on our 69 F-250, and recap what I did yesterday. I was working on trying to get the engine unstuck. I put some transmission fluid in the cylinders, and then I had a dead key. The key wasn't activating anything, the blower wasn't working, the ignition wasn't working, the starter relay wasn't working, things like that weren't working. And so I traced the wires all the way back to the ignition switch itself, and started messing with the wires in the back, testing those for voltage, see what was going on, and then stuff started working. So there was a bad connection probably in that where it plugs into the back of the ignition switch. So might have to take that apart and clean it, but for now it's working. And I was hitting the switch, and the engine started turning over. So the ATF got that engine unstuck pretty quick, so it wasn't stuck that bad, so that's great. And today I'm going to work on getting spark plugs in it, and we got to test spark. I'm guessing the points are corroded. I'm going to clean up the points a little bit, and probably put some gas down the throat of the carburetor and see if it'll fire off. So we're going to get after that. First, got to get these spark plugs in it, and then we'll be testing for some spark. So we'll see how this thing sounds once you get the spark plugs in it and get some compression on it. You'll get a better idea of how healthy the engine is, whether it's even compression all the way across, or if it's got a dead hole or things like that. So you can't really tell that when all the spark plugs out. So we'll do that and give it a listen and see what it sounds like. Okay, well I got all the spark plugs in. That went pretty easy, no problems there. So now we're going to crank the engine over for the first time with compression and see how it sounds. Not too bad. It's cranking a little bit slow, and it does have a different spot in it there. You know, ideally you'd wanted a nice smooth crank. You can't tell any difference, just smooth cranking all the way around. But engine like this that especially was stuck and probably not 100%, you're going to have a little bit of variations in compression. This could be a valve that's leaking a little bit. The rings could be leaking a little bit. So, you know, things like that. When you get running, that might clear up and fix itself. A ring could be stuck in a land on a piston, stuff like that. But it doesn't sound too bad, I don't think, for an engine that was stuck just yesterday. So I've certainly heard worse. Now it's time to check for spark. I have the key on inside. I have a screwdriver stuck in one of the coil wires here. And let's see if I can do this with one hand. I gotta find a spot to put the camera, so bear with me here. Let's see if you guys can see that. And our battery's about dead. But I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but we did have spark. Pretty good strong spark actually. So that's good. It was real nice and bright, easy to see, so that's good. Get these spark plugs on here and put some gasoline down the throat and see if they'll start. One other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pinch off this fuel line here, so if it does start up, I'm not sucking up bad gas and getting it in the carburetor. I should have done that sooner, but gonna get this fuel line pinched off so it's not sucking up that bad gas, and we'll put some clean gas in that carburetor. Well guys, I have the spark plugs in it, the spark plug wires back on it, and I'm going to put some fuel down the carburetor and see what happens. If it runs, it's not going to run very long because there's no fuel in the bowl. The fuel line down here was actually so old and crusty, I couldn't get a vice grips on it to pinch the line shut, so I just pulled it off. It's pretty much just solid rubber now, or solid, no flexibility in it anymore, so that needs to be replaced anyway. I don't think we pulled up any fuel because all this was dry when I took it off. But we'll give it a shot and see what happens. Well, it's trying. Probably either that transmission oil got fouled up the spark plugs, or low on compression, or a combination of both. But it's firing on a couple cylinders. If you can see, there's not much smoke now. The transmission fluid's getting cleared out, but it's trying to. I'm going to work out a little bit longer and see if I can get something a little bit more exciting to happen, and I'll show you guys if I do. Now here's a little trick I like to do when I'm trying to get a truck running that has been sitting for a long time. Usually the fuel pump's bad, and you can pour fuel down the throat of the carb, but a lot of times your mixture is just going to be way off, and cylinders aren't going to be even and stuff. So the best deal is to fill the bowl on the carburetor and let it do its work its own. And you can use the accelerator pump to add fuel when you need to, and the choke. But since all of that's froze up, I can't do that on this. So I can't like pump the throttle and give it more fuel, or choke it real hard and get fuel to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill up the bowl. I got a funnel here through the vent of the carburetor to fill the bowl up with fuel. And then I'm going to pour a little bit down the throat to give it a little bit extra fuel, and see if we can get this thing to fire off and run more than just half a second. So usually on a truck that's been running not too long ago, I've done this to get it off the trailer, or to load it on a trailer, things of that nature, move it around the yard. Because it'll run for, you know, a minute or so on the fuel in the bowl of the carburetor, as long as you're not hot rodding it too much. And you can move it around that way. It's like a little fuel reservoir in the carburetor for it to run. So I'll get this thing filled up, and we'll see if we can get a little bit more action out of it. You gotta remember to turn the key on. You have to, when you're working on these old points trucks, you gotta remember to shut the key off. You'll burn the points up if you leave it running when you're working on it. But got the key on, and we'll crank it some more, see what happens. Did we lose spark? We might have lost spark. See if I can get this checked again. Nope, we got spark. There, it's starting, maybe. Come on. Let me get a little bit of shot of starting fluid, see if we can get something to start off. Well, it's not looking good. I think if I had to guess, I'm guessing the that transmission fluid that's in the cylinders fouled those spark plugs. So I'm gonna pull a couple of spark plugs and see what they look like. If they're all oily, I'll probably pull all of them and clean them off, and we'll see if we can try it again and see if we can get it to run and better than just fire. So I kind of would like to hear this thing run just for the cool factor and be able to drive around and see how this thing drives, because I bet it drives really nice because it's so low miles. But I'm gonna pull a couple of spark plugs, and I'll catch back with you guys after I learn something. Well, that didn't take long. I don't know if you can see how wet and oily that spark plug is. That's not going to be good for any spark. So I'm going to pull the spark plugs yet again, clean them off, and probably spin the motor over some more to try to get some more of that transmission fluid out of there. and I'll do that all off camera because that's just kind of boring work. But once the exciting stuff happens, I'll turn the camera back on. Okay, back up and running. I cleaned most of the spark plugs. I didn't take some of the other ones over here by the brake booster just because they're hard. We'll see if we can get something going. Got the spark plug wires back on it, got the key on. Already got some fuel down the throat of the carburetor. Let's see what happens. Maybe it sounds a little bit better. It's not looking good. Well, I'm doing a little bit more work on this 360, trying to get to start, and did a compression test on it just to kind of get an idea of where the engine's at and see if that's where the problem I'm running into. And of course, all the spark, I didn't take all the spark plugs out. The engine isn't up to temperature. I can't open the throttle blade, so this isn't like an official compression test number, but just pulling a spark plug out, putting it in, and cranking it over with starter, it's getting about that should be like 100, maybe 105. That's not terrible. I mean, it might even, no, it's about 105, well, 107. So, I mean, that's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. A really good condition old FE kind of testing this way should be about 120. Maybe even 130 if it's a really good engine, but I mean, I was expecting something like 80 or something out of it since this thing was stuck at one time. But that compression number is not bad. If the rest of them are around that, it should run. There shouldn't be a compression problem. So I'm gonna have to do some more figuring out why this thing isn't running. We have spark, we have compression. The only other thing could be the gas isn't getting past the carburetor or something of that nature. I don't know why it wouldn't. Well, when you just pour it down the throat like that, it goes into the intake and it can kind of just vaporize and do its thing. But something is amiss here, and I'll have to dig into it. I'm going to check some spark on some different cylinders because so far I've only been checking on one over here. So I'm going to check over here, make sure we're getting spark to all of them. I did pull the cap off and looked at the points. Points look fine. They're breaking open, and obviously we're getting sparks, so they're breaking contact. But gonna do some more digging and see if I can get this thing running. So far it's just been doing the same thing, just hitting on a couple every now and then, and never, and just kind of just sputtering when you let off the key. But I'll see if I can get a little bit further along. I would really like to hear this thing run and drive it around, so we'll give it a shot. If I don't, this episode will not be a bust, because if I don't get it running, you know, that is what it is. It's a shame, but on this episode I want to pull the camper off and clean this exterior up, because I did a little bit of test right here, and the paint is looking fantastic. So I need to get this oxidation off, clean the windows, see how dirty the windows are. Can you see that? Get all these windows cleaned off, get this camper off, and see what this truck looks like all cleaned up. But hopefully we get the engine running and we won't have to do that, and we'll save that for another episode. But I'll continue digging into this engine, see if I can get it running. Well guys, I haven't got anywhere with trying to get it starting as is. I thought I would try one more thing. I got the throttle unstuck. It's a little bit sticky, but I got it unstuck, and I thought I would try and give it a little bit more air, because we have spark, we have compression. Another thing is if there's not enough air, you can flood it out really easy, and they just like a little bit of throttle whenever you're trying to get it started. So I'm going to give that a shot and see if that works. So I'm going to hold the throttle open a little bit while I crank it, and see if we can get this thing to fire off for you guys. I'm going to set the camera down here so you guys can see what's going on. I'm going to go inside the truck and hit the key. So let's give it a shot. throttle stuck on me a little bit there. Doesn't sound half bad. Doesn't like to idle. Come on. The fuel pump's making some noise. If you hear some noise, the fuel pump must be good. Not liking to idle very much. I don't know if it's missing. It's possible it could have a bent push rod if one of the valves was stuck. It's shaking a little bit, like it's missing. It's gonna run out there. It ran out of gas. All it had, the gas was in the fuel bowl. So that's not bad. I think it runs pretty decent. I might, since I got it to start and run and actually sound pretty good, I might rig up a fuel container here, hook up the fuel pump, see if I can get it to run a little bit longer, make sure the brakes are working, and see if we can go take this thing for a test drive. What do you guys say? So I'm going to rig up a makeshift fuel system and see if I can get this thing to run more than like 30 seconds. So I'm going to get after that. I'll show you guys what I do, because I know a lot of times I skip over stuff and you guys get me in the comments and say you wish you would have seen how I did that, but I'll try to show you what I'm doing since I'm doing a kind of a first start video, I guess. So I'm going to rig up the fuel system and I'll meet back with you guys. Well, I got the fuel system all rigged up. It consists of a hose and a gallon jug with some gas in it. So that'll be stuck in the fuel pump. I have confirmed that the fuel pump works and it filled the bowl up. So all that's it's running off the fuel pump now instead of filling up the bowl. So it should run a little bit longer. Have about a half gallon of gas in there. So it'll run a little bit longer, but it isn't wanting to idle. I'm going to see if I can get that adjusted a little bit before we go drive it. So I'm going to see if I can get it to fire up. Since the throttle's sticking, that's helping with it not wanting to idle. I can hopefully get the throttle stuck enough so I can do some adjustments and try to get this thing running good. So I'll show you guys what I'm doing. If I can get the throttle to stick. There, it's sticking. I'm going to adjust the idle screw here. Yeah, I think it's just idling too slow. Those butterflies are a little corroded. They might not be letting enough idle air by. I'm going to adjust the idle mixer screw, see if I can get it to idle a little smoother. There we go. So that didn't run half bad. Right, kind of sounds a little, it might have a little bit of a miss in it. I'll have to check that. But yeah, it's running pretty good, I think. See if it'll start on the key without touching it. Yeah. good oil pressure. Throttle's still sticking a little bit. It's getting up to temperature. Yeah. So I'm gonna get some things cleared off of it and check the brakes, and we'll go take it for a test drive. Well guys, it's time to take it for a drive. Yeah. Man, this feels good. I got the brakes working. I just put some fluid in them, pumped them up, and there's no problem at all. Man, this thing steers nice. The throttle's still sticking. It steers like that white F-350 I got that's low mileage. No power steering, and you can just steer with one finger all day long, like this. Man, that's nice. I almost think a non-power steering truck that's in good shape steers a little bit better than a power steering truck. The power steering truck kind of feels a little fake because it's over-assisted in the second gear. And this thing feels good with those 14 gears. Throttle still sticks. It's kind of a little annoying. Lugging it in third. It runs good and rides good with that camper on the back. Throttle sticking a little bit. You got to be a little careful. And this thing's awful quiet. We're on my gravel driveway here, so things are a little rough, and it's still awful quiet in here, no rattles. Man, that's real nice. Here's the brakes. Brakes work good. Got a little puddle of water here I'm trying to avoid. Here we go. Throttle's sticking in between shifts. That gets kind of annoying, but hopefully it'll free up a little bit. Man, this thing's running awful good. I am really pleased with this truck and how it's turning out. I took the, if you notice, the shifter had an extension on here and made the shifter real high. I took that off, and the shift knob actually cleaned up really nice. Let me turn around here. Don't want to get too far away. I only have a half gallon of gas. These old FEs sure do suck it down, that's for sure. This new process transmission shifts really nice. They're bad about eating up synchros in second gear if you have one that's been used a lot. This one seems to be, of course, I think it's low use anyway, but it seems to be in real good shape. Those 14 gears make it easy to take off in second gear all the time. First gear is just a low crawler gear. And this thing's driving awful nice. I'm gonna struggle to sell this one. Seems to be awful peppy. I don't know if they've done anything else in the engine. You know, it has those headers on it. You know, something like an RV cam or something like they would have done back in the day for pulling this big old RV. I'm guessing he ordered it how he liked it, since it has 410s in it, which is kind of uncommon for these trucks. Not, you know, that would be pretty hard for highway speeds, but if you're pulling this camper through the air, the big windbreak, I think you would enjoy the lower gears. Man, this thing's driving awful great. I'm awful pleased with it, other than the throttle sticking, but hopefully that'll work itself out. Carburetor seems to be working good. So I think we'll call it quits on this episode, since I got it running and driving. And really, I thought I was going to have to salvage this episode, because I didn't think I was going to get it running, because it's giving me so much problems. But turns out it just needed some more air, and I got the carburetor unstuck, and seemed to start up and run just great. So I think we'll do the cleanup video on another episode the next time. So you don't want to miss that. Hit that subscribe button so you know when it happens. Hit the notification bell so you get notified. Like this video if you like this truck and like this kind of content. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.